A very good evening to my colleagues and the attendees in the Asia Pacific Indian subcontinent. A very good afternoon to my colleagues in Europe and in Middle East and Africa. And a very good morning to all my colleagues who are based out of the Americas. So quickly, we'll start. So like the point which Munir was mentioning in terms of strategic planning. So the very first question that comes in is, what exactly is strategic planning? We are saying, okay, strategic planning in the post-COVID scenario, but what exactly just the term strategic planning, it basically means. So if I were to explain it in a sentence, so strategic planning is the process of documenting and establishing a direction of your business by assessing where you are and where are you trying to go. Where are you going? So the strategic plan gives you a place to record all your mission, your vision, your values, your long-term goals, your actions plans, and how you'd be utilizing those action plans to reach them. Any strategic plan, a well-written strategic plan plays a pivotal role in your business's growth and success. And it tells not just you, the business owner, or the top management, it also tells your employees how to respond to opportunities and challenges and where the ship is moving. Now, that being said, I'll just share a couple of facts. In fact, I'll share a fact. Despite the benefits of having a strategic plan in place, a growing number of business owners aren't focusing on the long-term strategies. And the number to be precise would be 63%. This was as a constant contact survey that was done in the US market around a year back pre-COVID, where thousands MNCs, where 63% of them said that they only plan just 1 year or less in advance. So this is the importance or the crux and we are talking about, and especially in a disruptive scenario where COVID, not just COVID, now we are getting new variations of COVID, the COVID-19 virus. This actually becomes a very critical piece to handle. In a nutshell to say, I'd say it's a process that is of looking ahead that should involve your entire business, the discussions that are involved with it that will bring the meaningful changes, and not just analyzing the business and setting realistic goals. This also leads to a creation of formal document that lays out the company's views and goals for the future. So maybe if we want to go back a year before, so we can find where we stand. Now the next question that's gonna logically come is, okay, this is fine. Then what are the benefits I get from creating a strategic plan? So it's not just the plan that gives the benefit, the entire exercise of strategic planning has 4 key critical elements which are involved to it. And I'll just go one by one, which are those 4 key critical elements. So in a nutshell, the process, obviously, it helps you, it fosters an increase in productivity, contributing to the success of business, and plus we'll be getting better ideas of goals perspective. So all these perspectives get you a very good insight. In addition to that, it's also beneficial to reach out to people outside to your company so you can get your opinions. For example, if let's say I have vendors, so vendors would also be having a unique perspective of the industry you're operating in. So when, as a part of the planning process, also when we talk to them, they tell us, sorry, how they think about the business landscape in the future. Point number 2, again, it's increasing productivity. So the moment we involve the employees in the planning process, not only they receive a sense of accountability, they get excited. Okay, they are contributing in that process, and they are well informed of the business's goals and objectives. So they are more likely to achieve those targets. It's basically if you are captain of a ship, if your employees know, okay, my ship is sailing from this location to this location, definitely it helps. The third point, it identifies your strengths and weakness. So when we are digging in, when we are brainstorming, we are able to examine and analyze our entire business. So we'll be able to know, okay, which are the areas where we are doing well and which are the areas if we are not doing well. And by identifying these areas, it gives an employees to improve. One of the points would be in terms of productivity, but also by minimizing risks which are associated with activities that we are performing, especially in this COVID scenario. So although it might, it's very good to for any business to excel, we should never forget to involve your employees, because they would be the people who would be telling you the points which we might not be very well be working on. And the last point, last but not the least, could be setting the direction of the business and fostering a proactive business. So by the end of the process, once the whole entire process has been done, the employees would be having a clear direction where you're going, what you want the business to go. These discussions and the planning process itself helps to put the business in the best position to succeed in the future. More adding to that, it gives the business team to figure out how to grow over the next 5 years and to address new opportunities and challenges. So in future, the business doesn't stumble down the road. So we have a clear vision.
Right. Let me ask a question, Kshitij here. Is strategic planning is only for big businesses? Because this is what always we get from small to medium enterprises when we are talking about the strategic plan and so on. It seems like a term that is absolutely associated, whereas the idea is that for big companies only, not for us.
Sure. I mean, that's a very good question, Munir. So there are many strategic planning misconceptions, like the one you said, Munir. Is it only for big businesses, or is it for any specific industry? Or the other misconceptions, just adding to your point, is that some people that we don't have enough time to think, or maybe if we think and we overdo it, we might be putting the business on the wrong path. There are a variety of reasons which people are very wary of. But let's not be alarmed by that. Irrespective of the size of the business, irrespective of the industry of the business, the benefits of any of this process outweigh the perceived negatives. I'm using the word perceived negatives by miles. And not only that, a strategic plan is beneficial because it helps you to make sure the company is heading in the right direction. And if you're not heading in the right direction, that point will also gets clarified in the process itself. Okay, am I steering the company in the right direction? Because the beginning phases of the planning process per se, it focuses on research and discussions. And the discussions that we make during the strategic planning process are not just based on assumptions. They are based on data, they're based on figures, they're based on researches. These are based on information which you would have gathered while talking to your employees themselves and the people outside the company. So the process may seem daunting at first, but we need to understand that what's involved and how to do it. It takes time, but the amount we invest in the process pays off when the company is working towards us accomplishing those goals and objectives which we have laid out. And the process does not kill creativity either also. That should not be okay. There's a process per se, we have to follow that. When you meet your employees, or any employee meets his employees for strategic planning, when they're brainstorming ideas, it puts everyone's mind together to think of creative ideas. If we go to the planning process once, it's not like that you won't have to do it again. That's also a misconception where people involved is, okay, I did my strategic planning process maybe 5 years ago. That's not the case, because it's a living document and it changes over time again. It's not common in the industry for businesses to. It's very rare that people have created a business plan and they have not revisited a document. To give you a very simple, a real life example, we have a domestic airline called Indigo, an Indian airline. Pre-COVID, it was completely focusing on they call themselves the clean, lean flying machine. So the mission statement was very clear: clean, lean flying machine, a very cost-effective way. However, when COVID started and we had a drop in terms of airport traffic, as a part of a plan B, they started utilizing the same domestic planes, the same Boeing 747s and A320s as for cargo transport. This was something which we did instantly, and that has helped them to survive where other airlines have been struggling. So when you strategically plan regularly, it keeps the businesses accountable, and it keeps you on track to achieve your goals and objectives.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's again lead me to the next question, because it's a little bit a mess up as well and misconception. What is the difference between planning, because you mentioned planning, and strategic planning? Are there any difference? Just not the obvious thing about the time, but the time span, but exactly what are the major differences between both?
Sure, Muni. This question, it's a very critical question. It always comes up in times during the planning processes per se. In fact, I was having a discussion with one of my colleagues yesterday, and he was just telling me, "Kyar, what's the difference? We talk about corporate planning, we talk about strategic planning, we talk about business planning. So the word planning is there. We have an idea, but what exactly is the key difference?" So just to clarify, so when we talk about a strategic plan, basically that is a document that defines a long range plan. It typically covers a planning period of 10 to 5 years, and it communicates the high level plan to achieve a comprehensive set of goals at the end of that period. When we talk about a business plan is a detailed planning document that defines in very specific terms how to achieve a specific milestone or objective as part of the strategic planning period. So let's, if I were to give you an example, let's say I have a company which works on it's on the retail side. Let's take an example. I'm in an FMCG giant, right? So my strategic plan is I'm seeing very high internet penetration in India. So I'd say maybe 5 years down the line, we should at least be having a 20% of our sales as digital sales, right? That is my strategic plan. My business plan would be, okay, now if I'm talking about that digital 20%, right? What are the products that I need to launch? Very details. When would we be launching that? What would be the marketing tactics I would be using for revenue and growth targets? What would be the plans? This is a kind of a very major difference. And a strategic plan has a direct, consider it as a directional high level story, how the business model will evolve. A business plan is more specific with very detailed financial projects that guide your investment needs, maybe your resource allocation, reallocation, your budgeting. So the business plan is more like a near-term alignment to your organization's strategic plan.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I guess it's moving forward with what you wanted to share here is from surviving to reviving.
Right. Thank you, Munir. Yeah. So continuing that point, which Munir you were mentioning. So now if you look at slide 1 and slide 2, how we did it, the only one major change we can see is for the next couple of years, let's say, I'm assuming the COVID scenario would be here to stay till 2021. The element of surviving will also be heavily emphasized now. If I were to set the theme would be it's moving from what is to what if and what's next. Now there's abundance of information, which is published daily about the pandemic. It's filled with news stats, buzzwords. This new strain has coming, and this leads to many lingering questions. And all of these questions, we still have questions which are not answerable. Like a very simple question would be when this COVID scenario will end. But the most prominent question that we should be asking ourselves is, how do we prepare for the future? So one of the most detrimental things that during this period of Earth's uncertainty is to get paralyzed into a survival mode by only thinking about now. Okay, how to survive. Next question we should be asking.
That is actually a question I wanted to ask. Sorry to interrupt this, which is how to move to that reviving mode. how to accomplish that, especially for businesses that, like you said, are struggling now with the COVID effect. So what is the recipe for the surviving to reviving accomplishment?
Sure, Sharif. I'll just add to that point. So now it's a time to map out the alternative strategies that will be more profitable. And what next, like you said, no, what's the recipe to do that, no, to how to proactively shift those gears. So in a nutshell, I would say we need a plan ahead team. So when I mean to say a plan ahead team, I mean to say an exclusive team who is involved for planning ahead. So now for preparing for the future starts with, again, like I said, together with a plan ahead team. This group should be a small, nimble team, or maybe 4 or 5 people, but with different perspectives or diverse perspectives. So we are basically leveraging both our internal resources across all the functional areas like HR, ops, finances, and maybe some external consultants as well as vendors, which when we were starting, we were saying they would be having a different view. Now, this dedicated team not only understands the diverse needs of the business, they should also be well versed what's our go forward plan is. They might be in terms of the activities, they might be meeting daily to support the executives in terms of short-term crisis management per se, and in terms of quick decision making for the new normal, be it in terms of supply and demand, vendor relations, marketing, operations, organizational structures, how the different government policies are changing. So for the specific COVID scenario, or specific disruptive scenario, the goal of this team should not be to lay out a long-term plan with 100% precision, but to question the assumptions that we are using and reviewing and refining the strategies over the time. It's not a one-day job. It's over a period of time because things are very disruptive. They are very dynamic. So this team will be focusing on setting the strategy that will satisfy customers and employers. And they are also made sure that they are aligned to the new normal. Now, the second question which you asked, Sharif, was on the planning in terms of the timeline side, like you said. In fact, that was one of the slides which I was presentations I was going to present. My next slide was on the timeline perspective also. And the theme I would say is it's shifting your thinking to shorter phrases. While you are aiming, aiming at the larger scenario, but you're shifting your thinking to those short facts. To win, like it said, to win your war, you have to win small battles. That's the objective. So unlike a typical strategic plan that just focuses maybe 3 years or 5 years in advance, the focus now will be on creating plans that are more granular and shorter and are more manageable in time frames. So these plans need to be living and dynamic, and they might also likely change weekly or even daily. So like we talk about the agile mindset, right? So when we are adopting a flexible and agile mindset, it's very critical to be able to pivot quickly. It's like a ship, we are moving a ship. So the more quicker we are able to maneuver it, the more strategic we become in our execution. Now each front or cluster of activity, let's call it, we look at the presentation, each front is represented by a horizontal line, right? So I've taken 4 clusters, let's say initial state, what's the scenarios we are using, what's the path development, and what are the control points. This each cluster is represented by the horizontal the horizontal bars, and must therefore be planned on multiple horizons, where the master plans are created for front end, middle end, and future timeframes. So the plan ahead must then go to the initial set, and the context is being set for different future strategies. Now, one point which I'd like to highlight here is that organizations need to consider what they know right now, what they see as a highly likely outcome in the next 2 weeks, maybe to a month, maybe another plan where what is the plan for next quarter, what is the new normal plan if the new normal, if the new disruption hits. So although this strategy might not be very new, it must be done with a more discipline and rigor that has been done in the past. If we observe the planning processes per se, earlier they were more like you could really find a deviation in the middle of the year in terms of plans, in terms of the objectives. However, that being said, this time we have to be more disciplined and rigorous, and getting back to the plan maybe every few weeks or quarter to make sure things are going as per our mindset, and if there have been changes, tweaking strategic objectives. Now, now the question comes is, like I said at the very start, what is, that's the scenario. So the very first aspect is, what is the current circumstances to improve your future? So while this crisis or any disruption, it poses many challenges, but we also need to understand it represents a unique opportunity to learn and reflect on our current business model. Like we said in the start, consider the weaknesses, the risks that need to be mitigated, the strength and opportunities that might have come to light, as well as the sustainability aspect of those opportunities. To do so, we must think in a strategic planning how it could change in the next normal, and how potentially these future shocks, I use the word shocks because this is a disruption, how are we potentially able to absorb this? So the bottom line would be that whatever the various circumstances that would be coming about the organization during this crisis, it's critical that the organizations are utilizing the lessons that we would have learned for the next phase also. Now, as a starting point, I would say is understanding the current financial state in any of your organization. So as we look forward to the future, the focus will be shifting away from not only protecting your cash, but also protecting your profitability, because that is something which will give you sustainability. So as a start, like I said, understanding your financials, reflecting on the current state will strengthen your ability to make more accurate assumptions and plan for various scenarios and future forecasts in terms of profitability. So the financial state would be a key lever when we are talking about the sustainability aspect. Yeah, so I guess, yeah. So in fact, a question just came to my mind, which I wanted to share. Just something popped up during this conversation was, now we are talking about forecasts and futures, so it does involve assumptions, right? And like we said, there has to be a very disciplined and rigorous approach when you're talking about the future. So how or what are the modules that we would be using, or the metrics we would be using to quantify those assumptions? So, or I'll rather call it the assumption canvas. What if? What we are. Now the next question comes is, what if? So the assumption planning starts with what if. So many businesses have had to shift dramatically overnight because of this disruption. So obviously nobody could have predicted the pandemic, but we do have the opportunity to start thinking through the assumptions, for what's coming next and understand. So one of the key aspects which I found to consider these questions or the assumptions, some questions companies need to ask themselves. So if I were to jot down, or if I were to mention the key components, those would be customers, suppliers, creditors, competition, government intervention, and employees. I'll quickly just go through each of these points. So consumers, why consumers? So have the habits of consumers shifted permanently? Just questions I'm asking, or these questions need to be asked. How will reopening impact the demand? If there's let's say there's a very good scenario and there's an increased demand, will this demand be sustainable? That's a question that companies need to ask themselves. From a supplier perspective, how resilient is my supply chain? Do even the suppliers are sustainable? The suppliers can meet these fluctuating demands? Now, on a creditor's perspective, if I have a credit line that I have taken, so what is the financial flexibility? If suddenly I'm in need of a working capital, or if suddenly I'm in need of capital, will the creditors have the accountability and the flexibility to provide me those finances? Next point was competitors. How are we performing in terms of our competitors? How are our competitors performing, or what's our relation we have? Do we have maybe a direct correlation with our competitors? Last but not the least, government government intervention. Now policies are also changing. A very simple example would be recently in India, we had this UK lockdown. Within a week, they started the flights. There was a policy change where they said all people who are traveling from Europe, they need to get a certified COVID test done before arriving in India. And it happened overnight. So these are the policy changes that might be happening. In cinema halls, we had opened at 100% occupancy. A couple of days back, government came up with because of there was a spike in terms of COVID cases. Government again came up with a new policy where it's only 50% of the cinema hall that can be open. And last point would be employees. We also need to understand that at this time we are overstaffed, understaffed to reach our plans. Do people, I mean, a lot of us have been working remotely, or may have been working on site, or may have been working in office. So where are they more, where are the people more productive? Some people might be productive remotely. Some might be very productive in terms of office, depending on the company, depending on the scenario, depending on the industry you're performing. Have we found any improved operating cadence? And is it sustainable for the well-being of that employee? So these are certain questions that every or this canvas is something which every organization will have to ask. Now, these assumptions will not only act as a gauge to how well your business is positioned, and it also will help us to account what could happen, what is likely to happen, and from that perspective, what we want to happen. So assumption, it tests, it's testing, it ensures that decisions are made on how several factors react and not how we think they should react. However, that being said, in uncertain times, be it customer, be it a supplier, be it a creditor, their behaviors could also change quickly. I mean, meaning there would be new assumptions that we'll have to make, and which needs to be constantly tracked, as using outdated assumptions will lead us to an inaccurate logic to base our decisions on. And these assumptions will be the backbone to envision multiple different futures and how we'll reshape the business. And considering the likelihood that these assumptions are occurring and the impact if we are wrong, if we know these variables beforehand, it will help us to determine our flexibility and ability of our business to pivot even if things go down. So in a nutshell, I hope, Sharif, I took some extra time, but that would have answered your question.
'Cause you're a believer, a dreamer, a stone cold, do or die survivor, making it higher, driven by fire.
Okay, hi Kshitij. I do have a question. So in a scenario where you have been emphasizing on the dynamic nature of the market and different scenarios and processes, which framework or approach that you can apply or link, and not just during the COVID pandemic, but in any disruptive scenario?
Sure. It's a very valid, in fact, a very critical question that Raneem, you have asked. It's more a follow-up question that we have asked. So I'll call it the VUCA world, the VUCA world. And the theme should be how to make quick decisions, and act upon them amid this uncertain world. So in fact, if we look at the slide also, VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, this dynamic scenario of the planning in this dynamic scenario definitely takes the assumptions and creates a plan for what to do with each of them going forward. That being said, it's not a fixed or one-dimensional plan, but rather a portfolio of options like we were discussing that can be acted upon as events change. So we are entering into a new territory where we do not have a strong prediction of what will happen. So the ability to dynamically pivot decisions according to a current environment is critical of being nimble, and avoiding getting stuck in a rigid plan. So if I were to quickly go through this VUCA scenario, so it was actually a term that was introduced by the US Army a long time back when we were training the Marines. So where volatility, like I said, things are frequently changing in this scenario. So we have to adapt to new circumstances very quickly. Uncertainty, we do not know what each day is going to bring to us. Complexity, there's so many unknown factors, in terms of government policies, in terms of new variants coming in terms of lockdowns that are happening, and ambiguity. And at the end of the day, we do not have a precedent where we can rely on. But similarly, like fighting a battle, where all these factors are there, we don't know, it's a volatile scenario. So this term VUCA, let's call it, is used to describe a new norm of chaotic and rapidly changing business. So we need to depend on a scenario planning where we can create storylines around different potential futures of using this methodology, observing the environment, orienting our strategic assumptions to map out alternative scenarios, deciding on the next steps, and acting with speed and agility. However, that being said, we also need to make sure that we are not getting trapped in this vicious cycle of building a rigid plan, every time we are back to the planning front. I know, and that's causing us to cut costs because I'm unsure, or I'm laying off my employees because there's ambiguity where business will be done, or we are not sure about our secure financing. But what I would rather suggest is, during this period of volatility, variables will be much more dynamic. Therefore, the ability to pivot would be is the key element for surviving volatility. Depending on the situation, these scenarios might be planned weekly, giving you as the inputs change, the scenarios will change as well. Now, the goal of this VUCA framework or this dynamic scenario is not to improve the level of confidence that an assumption or situation will occur, but rather to create profitable and executable plans. So in the start, we said, right, financial leveraging would be one of the aspects. Rather than moving from surviving, we have to move towards reviving. So instead of just pivoting around the known factors, we have to account for the unknown factors, the known and the uncertainties also. This is where, when we discuss the plan ahead team, remember at the very start, we said there has to be a plan ahead team separately, which would be responsible for anticipating the shifts and reviewing and revising the scenarios based on the market in terms of changing assumptions, monitoring your real-time indicators. Let's say these would be your consumer expectations, your supply chains, the talent pool on the employee front as a part of this assumption canvas. Now we are talking about, I use the word dynamic scenario planning, right? What exactly, when I mean to say this dynamic scenario planning, so basically it means us, we have to think through the logic and story of these various scenarios. Sorry. So process, we have representation. The process of this starts with a focal issue that is not going to be the same for every businesses that you're operating in, be it in terms of the geography you're operating, be it in terms of industry you're operating. Next, we have to think about, Next, we have to think about the key factors which are relevant to that business. Now, these factors will be linked to our assumptions, be it in terms of consumers, suppliers, employees, like we just described a few minutes back. Next, we have to consider the external forces such as government interventions on public health, lockdowns, restriction on sales, or economic shocks. Now, also, we have to think about the critical uncertainties and risks. That would involve the unknowns, like you said, in scenario, and determining the likelihood that this scenario or this assumption will occur. So based on these 4 or 5 factors, we have to create a story, and the story would involve scenario logistics, how the scenario plays out. Scenario 1, how it plays out. Is it profitable? Is it executable? Is it sustainable? If I'm going by scenario 1, what is the next response if this scenario occurs? How can we pivot from this scenario if another scenario occurs? Then what are the early indicators that we need to keep a track of if we were to track whether the scenario is changing or not? How does this change, and if this change happens, how will my scenario get affected? So the idea is if we are able to see the potential changes early on, so we'd be able to take regular, rapid, and very decisive actions. I hope, Raneem, this answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much, Kshitij.
Thank you. So now the question comes is, when we are talking of any process or any scenario or any module is not always perfect. That we stated in the very start. So now I'd just like to highlight the weak points or the places where this strategic planning might go wrong. So like I said, strategic planning is an ongoing commitment. Even if a company, or even if we have been through an initial round of planning cycle, it leads to a development of your business's first strategic plan. Still not finished. So, but there are three key assumptions that we need to take care. First, the plan has to be implemented. So implementation is one challenge which every organization faces. Point number two, the strategic plans can also go wrong if you are setting your goals and objectives which are very unrealistic. I understand that every business wants to grow and succeed, but if we set an overly ambitious growth rate, not only it gives you wrong numbers, it also discourages your employees and your team because you would be pushing for productivity. The next point I would say is the strategic plan requires commitment. So the entire team, when I mean an entire team, not just the plan ahead team or the business team or the employees, the entire team needs to be focused on the business and carrying out the strategic plan. If you're not sticking to your strategic plan and it's not being used regularly, you might lose or the companies might lose a sight of the company's direction and goals, and any ship which does not know where it's going, it will end up at that spot only. And the reason why these implementations fail, which we observed, is three key important factors. One is poor communication. I mean, the team has not been communicated properly. Lack of leadership in terms of taking those strategic calls and using wrong measures or wrong KPIs or the KRAs to measure a business. Now, like I said, any strategic plan is a living document. And so we should not just spend too much time. We should spend time to create a strategic plan and put it on the shelf to collect dust. No, that does not happen. We have to live by it and we have to regularly update it. How often you update your strategic plan? Again, that would depend on the scenario, which industry, which geography you are working in, and how disruptive the scenario is. So let's say if the business is in a fast-paced industry and which gets quickly affected by changing outside factors, so we'll have to review our strategic plan on a more frequent basis. For example, if you're, let's say if you are working in an ever-evolving tech industry, probably we might want to check on your strategic plan every quarter. At the very least, in the worst case scenario, what I would suggest is we should be reviewing a strategic plan every year it's like 6 months. And when we review the strategic plan, not only we are looking at the assumptions that we made at that point of time, we also need to understand where our business is standing right now. What the challenges and threat we thought maybe 6 months or a year or 3 months back, they might not be the challenges or threats right now. So let's not be afraid to change any part of the strategic plan if we feel that outside factors are having a bigger impact on the company or on the business than what we initially thought. We should be having the flexibility to change those objectives and goals. So the regular review is not only a good opportunity to check back with your employees as well, because those employees who would have helped you to create a strategic plan, they have also invested their success in that way. But they'll also be very honest and clear where the business stands. So talk to them, how things have happened with the when we started this planning process. Things have improved, have not improved. The concerns what were there, they have changed, or they have not changed over a period of time. Now I've been talking about dynamic forecasting, right? So I'll also move on to the final stage of forecasting when we are talking about scenarios. Like I said, we have scenario 1, scenario 2. So what is the methodology in terms of dynamic forecasting? So traditionally forecast predicted what will happen in the future, by relying mainly on the data that was gathered, from the past, where empirically it was more accurate. However, in this scenario, where we are in the VUCA framework, where the future is largely unknown, traditional forecasting cannot keep up with this dynamic market condition. So therefore, we need to use dynamic forecasting to account for both backward-looking as well as forward-looking. So if I were to explain, the backward-looking data accounts for your pre-crisis situation and highlights the key factors that have evolved during the crisis. When I'm talking about the forward-looking data, basically what we are emphasizing is we are using these early indicators from scenario planning that detect signals for changes in the environment, let's say such as consumer behavior, supply chain now swinging. So these dotted lines, which we are seeing, they represent the potential changes or the what if scenarios. So as an organization, we have to realize that disruptions would be impacting us in different ways. Whether you are operating on a survival mode, or whether you are trying to adapt to a new circumstance, where the organization might be experiencing rapid growth post-COVID, will have to transpire and make sure that the impact on our business to the various phases of a new norm. And these lines, which is the more critical or more strategic line for us, as per our strategic objectives, that is something we should be aiming for. The benefit of time is coming to an end. I'll just try to quickly I'll identify the 5 priorities that we should be we should be looking at in terms of this scenario. So the very first would be 5 key priorities. Number 1, in terms of financials, let's realign the cost structure and sharpen productivity. This is where we get employees involved in. Point number 2, let's supercharge our digital transformations. Point number 3, let's the new revenue streams, if there's a possibility of revenue streams. Point 4, we have to prepare our workforce also for new world. The points that you were discussing, some people might be efficient working in terms of work from home, some might be remotely working, some might be very well working when coming to offices. And last and not the least, in fact, the most important one, we have to strengthen our capital efficiency. Now to conclude, that being said, speed is, so the key theme has been the speed. Speed has been of the utmost importance. So let's be able to quickly pivot from one scenario to other and deploy solutions rapidly. In this uncertain and volatile environment such as this we are living right now, let's have more optionality in our business operations that we have had in the past. And it's not about so strategic planning was what used to be about optimization. Let's move towards optionality in the near future.
We have a question here related with that. How do you strategically plan in the time of the uncertainty that we are living in by now? I mean, you don't know what is happening in the coming few days. Economies are not really stable, and the business dynamics are rapidly changing. And this is not an easy task for anyone to be able to plan just a month ahead or forecast what will be happening. Imagine a strategic plan. How would be the world looking like, and what would be the activities that will definitely support the business to be running? Can you give us an idea on how would that be possible within this kind of dynamics? Would that be possible to make a strategic?
Sure, Muni. So if I were to prioritize on that aspect, what I would say is let's have a theme which I was mentioning that rather than thinking about optimization, let's talk about optionality. So if I were to give you 4 or 5 levers which should be used when we are doing this planning process. So one would be productivity, which it's a very critical element. Second would definitely be digital transformation. I mean, in terms, the one of the challenges which even a lot of people faced was they were used to meeting face to face, right? They did not have those softwares or the tech systems which would help them to come up with those new digital presence. We also need to think about new revenue streams. Like I said, optionality, that is something. And the last point, if I were to say in terms of factors, we do need to look at our capital efficiency also from a survival point of view. How are we? Rather than emphasizing on profit making or maybe on sales, how about accountability or sustainability? Even if you are making profits, what's the longevity of those profits? That is something we should be looking for.
Just one question from my side, and I'm strictly talking from a marketing perspective here, but because I've done this also, what you were talking about today a number of times with different clients and so on. What is your view with regards to the team composition that you spoke about earlier? What type of personnel, what type of expertise should be present in that team?
Sure. So, Sharif, I did talk about what I call it the plan ahead team. So, yes. In terms of composition of the team, certain aspects would be variable. That would depend on the industry you're operating in. However, that being said, so if I were to say 4 pillars or 5 pillars, I mean, of any company, that would be finance, marketing, like you said, HR, and if it's a tech company, then somebody from technology. These are 4 or 5 people definitely need to be a part of that team. That composition has to be. Now, that being said, again, it would depend if it's a medical industry, then somebody from a medical side also needs to be there. That would vary, but more and more, the basic common components would be your financials, I mean, your finance team, your marketing team, your sales team, your HR team, and your tech team.
Okay. Plus anybody from the technical side, depending on the industry, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see any more questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for attending this webinar. Thank you, Kshitij, for all the valuable information that you have shared with us. Sharif, Ramin, thank you so much for the questions. Everyone, it was a pleasure meeting you and looking forward to see you next month, inshallah. Thank you so much and cheer for now. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Kshitij.